Hello, my name is Benjamin Blackstad, and I'm going to be explaining my final presentation where I was a BLAST volunteer at Volunteers for Youth. So, a good way to put it in perspective is Volunteers for Youth is the main organization, and the BLAST program is where I volunteered at. It's one of their subsidiaries, if you want to call it that. It is located at 2301 North Sioux Avenue in Claremore, Oklahoma. 74017 is the zip code, and this is actually not their main base of operations. That's actually down the street, down Sioux Road, and this is actually their community center in Claremore. Now, what is Volunteers for Youth, you may ask? Now, their mission statement is to explore our efforts that positively impact youth and families, quote unquote, because they're worth it. Now, their clientele and their population that they serve is all throughout Rogers County and is limited to Rogers County. To go along with their mission statement, they have a vision that all Rogers County youth succeed, which I would say is a pretty positive point of view. Now, why I chose this organization, fun fact, it actually was not my first choice. I had some other choices before this, and they included Grand Mental Health in Claremore, Oklahoma, as well as Rogers County Youth Services. Now, the other reason why I chose this organization is I knew the supervisor, Brent Bilby, very well. He's a very good friend of mine, and he's a very awesome man. The location was in Claremore, so it was close enough to where I was on campus at Rogers State University. And more, I would say, wholesome reasons would be the fulfilling nature of the work, because I feel like it will help me in the long run, and it also expanded my leadership skills prior and afterwards. A day in the life at the BLAST program would usually entail me, for my internship perspective at least, I would go around 2 to 3 times a week, and I would usually get there at the same time the assistant would. His name was Cody. He was a great guy, and we would set up like the food, the games, the tables, the sign-in logs, basically everything that needed to be set up in order to have the operation run smoothly. And then that was usually about 30 minutes before the children arrived after they got out of school. And once they did arrive, we interacted, or I did at least for sure, interacted with the games and the children. And I would just try to bond with them and try to let them know that this was a safe place. And finally, when the last child left, we would just close for the day and put all our stuff that we set up back. A description of the environment would entail 5 things. The community center that we borrowed and rented out or had an agreement with. I'm pretty sure that Volunteers for Youth has an agreement with the community center. But to put it in layman's terms, it was a very relaxed and chill environment. It was very open and not really restrained. There's a lot of room for creativity and support. And however, the building was in needs of repairs in certain areas. Maybe we could look into funding for that. Prior to starting my internship, I made 5 goals, and I will read them off. 1 is to become a good example to the youth in the program. 2, to actively participate with the enrolled youth. 3, to follow proper safety precautions if the need arises. 4, to gain a better understanding of today's youth. And 5, to keep the facility in tip-top shape. I'd say that sounds pretty realistic. Now, here are the challenges I faced at the site. Here and there, I would have some disrespectful kids treat me disrespectfully, and they would just have a bad attitude about things like playing games or simply wanting to talk or stuff like that. And I try my best to deal with that by choosing my battles, actually, by picking and choosing what I should pursue and what I should just leave alone and just use my self-control to the best of my ability. The poor functioning entertainment equipment, such as pool tables, air hockey, table tennis, board games, etc. Those could be in need of some more funding. The last challenge was how to relate to the children and gain an understanding. Sometimes I found that a little difficult, but I'd say I did pretty well towards the end of my internship here. Now, my applied strengths prior to starting the internship included kindness, good judgment, humor, and compassion. I always found myself to be a funny guy growing up. And I'd say that was a good skill I had in relating to the children at the BLAST program. And after completion of the internship, my strengths, I had some more strengths that I didn't really have before, such as self-control, bravery, zest and enthusiasm for certain activities, and a hopeful attitude or optimistic one to say the least. Now, here are my accomplishments for my internship that I performed and accomplished at the site. I helped the children learn valuable lessons in life. I would say that's a pretty fulfilling accomplishment to say the least, guiding the next generation and whatnot. I proved to myself and supervisor that I am responsible for many difficult tasks. I improved and fixed the entertainment equipment, as I was mentioning earlier. I tried to fix the pool table, and funny enough, we found some jammed stuff inside the pool table. So I guess that was what was causing the problem. And I also maintained a safe environment for the kids, which goes without saying. I learned a few lessons while I was here, actually. The takeaways from the site, my time at the site, was that the children are very vulnerable and need to not just be protected but taught in a meaningful manner. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes is a good opportunity for growth. Now, applying this to my future career application of being a licensed therapist, if I'm going to be a counselor or therapist for adolescents, I need to understand how they think and act. Which, I mean, that makes sense. I plan on working with them in the future once I finish grad school, which is, yeah. And I learned from both my internships. So my previous internship was at SafeNet. So applying that one as well, that it is important to show love and grace to everyone, even if we are not understanding of their situation. Kind of goes back to putting ourselves in other people's shoes. Now, my advice for future interns is to make sure to know the right people and build the right connections. Like I mentioned in a few slides ago, I was blessed enough to have connections with that Brent Bilby supervisor, and we were very good friends prior to this internship. So that's how I was able to, land a good, secure position here. And also, always do the research before applying for the site. That's very crucial information to know. And things I wish I knew prior to my internship was the rapid decline of site options. As I was mentioning, this wasn't my first choice. And when I realized that there was a lot of choices that were not available, I had to do a lot of constant reaching out. So that was not exactly an easy task, but I pulled it off, and I ended up at Volunteers for Youth in the BLAST program. So that was always a good thing that came out of this. Lastly, if anyone has any questions, type any questions you may have in the comments section below. I would love to hear your feedback on what you thought of this presentation, what I should improve, what I did great on, and just any questions about the site in general or Volunteers for Youth. And if you live in the Claremore, Oklahoma area, just any questions you have about this program in general. Thank you very much, guys, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.